This is Pamela Ramos Brown from the Holistic Wealth Podcast. Today, our podcast will be about a broke broker's tale of its rich client versus poor client. We'll be talking about two brothers. Both of them had lawsuit settlements of $1 million each. And these two brothers were brought to me by this young but wise attorney. And his claim to fame was learning how to simplify the process for success. And so he was off to a great start, winning these lawsuits for people. And he decided to bring his two clients to me. Again, both had $1 million each to start with. That was their settlement from the lawsuit. One of the two accounts ended up having a lot of fraud alerts. I just kept getting calls after call about fraud alerts regarding one of these accounts. So these two brothers decided to go in two different directions with regards to what they would do with their money. And even though, again, they both started out with $1 million, their portfolio performance ended up very differently. So I'm going to let you kind of figure out, well, who did what. And so one of the brothers got a new boat. The other brother bought things to upgrade his family's house, like, TVs, cars, and stuff like that. And again, they had the same amount of money, $1 million each. We started them on the same start date. And actually, believe it or not, we put them in the same investment strategy because there were some similarities with regards to their long-term goals, with regards to retirement, their risk tolerances, and things like that. And so, however, even though they were starting with the same amount of money, starting their investment on the same dates, and they were in the same investment strategy, they still were starting from different places in life. So that was really interesting. And that starting from different places in life really made a difference in their overall portfolio performance results. For instance, one of the brothers ended up having, a much stronger performance in his performance, whereas the other one, particularly the one that had the multiple fraud alerts, ended up having a poorer performance in his portfolio results. So I wonder if you have guessed which one ended up with the poor performance portfolio compared to the other. They both did fine, but, one just outpaced the other. And so I'm about to let you know. This is still, again, a story of the rich get richer and the poor continue to be at least poorer than the rich. So by now you may have guessed, and hopefully you have, but not that simple. You may have guessed that the one who bought the boat was the brother that was starting off from a more wealthy perspective and place in life, and the one that did not buy the boat was the one that was not as financially wealthy at the time that he received his $1 million. And so again, because of the things that the brother who was not as rich as the brother who bought the boats ended up, having to spend his funds on, getting new TVs, getting a new car, and things like that he felt that his family needed to upgrade their life from being mediocre to just a little bit better. His portfolio performance results were not as good as the brother who mainly all he did with his money was bought one item, which was a boat. And then the rest of it, he let it sit. It sat there and just grew. And and it really wasn't an extreme amount of difference in the total dollar value of, the amount of monies that they both spent. They both spent a nice, bit of money because, of course, a boat costs a nice bit of money, but also the TVs, the cars, and things like that added up as well. And so again, the brother who started out with, he already had TVs, he already had cars, he already had most of the things that he needed to already be in a comfortable place. The other brother, was not in that place. He was not in a place where he had, nice up to date TVs, nice up to date and reliable cars. So he bought those things for himself and for his family so that he could, improve his life, for himself and for his family. And so what that ended up doing was costing him, more than it cost the other brother to simply treat himself to a new boat. And so the question is, should the one with the lesser money who started out with the lesser money get criticized or understood? Is that understandable that he wanted to, buy TVs, cars, and different things to come up possibly to the level where his first brother was? Um, so versus just, you know, taking a portion of the money and just buying one item and that may cost a good bit and then letting this money rest and grow. So that is the question. I'm not going to answer the question for you. I'm just going to let you ponder on it and you decide, should the one with the lesser money, who started out with the lesser money of the lesser lifestyle, get criticized, or should that person be understood? I would certainly love to know your thoughts, so feel free to share them with me. And so the next thing I wanted to kind of share here was about this broker and how we came up with the name of the broker. My daughter actually was the one that kind of came up with that name. And it was so funny because she was comparing our life with me and her, with me being a single parent and her being my daughter, compared to one of her friends who had a mother and a father. And she didn't really kind of understand why they were able to, travel more and do other things that we were not able to do. And so I did explain it to her about, having two parents and two incomes in the family and what a difference that made. And so it was a learning lesson. And she ended up calling me the broker. And so it was a funny name that stuck with me, but it was eye-opening as well to see it from her perspective of how she's looking at things and seeing the differences between the life of a single parent and the life of a couple with two incomes in the household. And the effect that it had on her life versus her friend's life. So it's very interesting. So again, I hope you guys kind of think of it too when you're making decisions about how your family should be and the effect that it's going to have on your family members, particularly the kids, because that's one of the things we even talked about in the last podcast. So I hope that if you haven't heard it, maybe you should go and check it back out so that your kids won't be referred to you as the broker as well. So one of the things that I learned as the broker at, when I was a financial advisor for this firm is that in addition to the first lesson that my sales manager taught me about divorce having the major impact on your wealth, one of the other things that the sales manager taught me is that the covered call financial investment strategy was one that he really believed in. He taught it to me. And this is one of the investment vehicles that we shared with these two brothers. And like I said, their portfolios were performing well. It's just the fact that when we looked at the two compared to each other, the brother who simply bought a boat and then just let his money rest, he ended up having a better performance on his portfolio as far as return on investment than the brother who, spent uh, continuously over time, even though there were smaller dollar items. And so that was one of the things that I learned from them was to cover call financial investment strategy. And what was interesting about it is that it wasn't a financial product that the company sold. It was an investment strategy, but it wasn't a financial product. And so, with it not being a financial product that they sold, then there were no marketing materials. And so, it was really kind of complex to try to explain to people without being able to show them any kind of visuals, and things like that, and no corporate materials that they could, look at and wrap their heads around. And so, a lot of times, I took the sales manager on my sales calls with me to help explain this to my clients. And fortunately, in most of these cases, these were people that I knew. And so even with the sales manager being there, trying to explain this complex investment strategy without the use of official marketing materials from the company, it also taught me another lesson because one of the biggest responses that I had from my prospective clients is that, well, Pam, I really don't understand this, cover call strategy. However, I trust you, Pam. And so that is what helped seal the deal. That's what helped them to do business with me. And the enlightenment from knowing that people would trust me with their valuables, their money, their retirement savings, and things like that. Even when they couldn't understand the what or the how much or the how to do such a serious subject of the covered call financial strategy, it really taught me a lifelong lesson about myself. And that is a major responsibility and blessing that must be cared for with great passion. For somebody to trust you with their money when they don't know really what you plan to do with it, how you plan to handle their money and things like that was, just incredible. And it was such a blessing to be in that position. Now, these two gentlemen, even though we put them in the cover call strategy, they really, I'll tell you just how complex it was. They did not understand it. They got up and they were walking out the door after the sales manager had explained it to them. They really were like, I don't know, just got this $1 million and you want me to trust you with some, strategy that we really don't kind of understand. They literally were walking out the door. They literally had their feet out the door. The door was open to the office. They were, half of their body was out of the door, half was in the door, up until the point where I said to them that this Friday, and one thing that, if you go ahead and open up an account today, then the great thing is that you have access to your money over the weekend, because the company that I worked for was one of those few agencies that actually had its own bank. And so with any other service that they would have walked out the door to try to get to, they would not have been able to have access to their money. They would have been able to deposit it, but they would not have been able to access it until Monday morning. And that little bit made the difference. They were like, okay, well, you know what? I sure would like to have my money over the weekend. So they stepped right on back in. We pulled the door behind us and we did the paperwork. And that is how they ended up becoming my client. in addition to the young attorney bringing them over to me, in addition to the sales manager helping to, explain the investment strategy to them. It was, that little bit of helping them to see another benefit of doing business with us versus someone else. And so this was a wonderful experience. It taught me a lot. I learned so much, and I was, just having able to just kind of use it for different areas of my life. And so here, it was an interesting situation because even with this particular company, the manager did tell me that he congratulated me on quite a few things. He said that I was doing a lot of things right, but however, I came to the understanding that at the time it was pretty much for the wrong company and at the wrong time. And I even developed a spreadsheet that they did not have to even help automate and expedite the process that they went through. It was a pretty lengthy process to prepare for this covered call strategy. And, if you get a chance to check it out, you'll see that it involves a couple of, financial elements to it that, have to be managed, to get through the process. And I even had one customer who wrote a song just for me, came over and serenaded me because I was one of the first ones to offer a solution to their problem. However, the company ended up denying them the investment opportunity. They decided that they didn't want to kind of move forward with them because they were a nonprofit organization. And which was interesting because probably about a week later after they denied my customer, I saw in the news where they had done this really big account with this major nonprofit organization. Yeah, I understand that maybe my client just wasn't big enough for them, even though it was some, it was a nonprofit organization that involved quite a few companies from an industry. It was an industry organization. So not really sure how all of the politics went into it, but all I know is that I got my little song that, told me that I was doing a good job for them, for the customer. They appreciated me, but the company was not able to, accommodate my request for the customer. And also, this same attorney, he invited me to his association that he was involved in. It was an association of other attorneys, and we had about 20, 30 people in there. And so I was able to go and make a presentation to them, and they were very excited to be a part of this company. They were even actually interested in supporting me because it was uncommon to see Blacks in this industry. It was uncommon to see females and Black females. It was like, oh my goodness. So let's support her. And, but also, they were excited about some of the things I told them about. And so all of them, pretty much submitted their applications to be a part of the organization. And however, we did not get the sales support that we needed here. And one of the company's competitors actually beat them out on some of the deals. And that was very unfortunate because this was a pivot that I was taking because of some of the market conditions at that time. I decided to focus on the debt sales side versus the equity sales side. And when I tell you the majority of the people in this organization that were, qualified with regards to, credit, income, and those types of things, they were all qualified. It could have been a great deal for me, for the company. However, the company was not prepared, or they did not respond as positively as we needed for them to, accept these professionals as their clients. And so these sales did not go through. So again, it was my understanding that we were doing things right, but not necessarily for the right company at the right particular time and place. And one of the things I also found out about this too, when you are a young financial advisor, you are mostly a salesperson versus an investment professional, because until you get a certain number of clients, certain portfolio value, then the company really does not invest in you to help you with regards to those things, on the advice side of things. So it's pretty interesting, the industry, how things work. And so, again, here, one of the things that we'll be talking about, these, rich clients versus poor clients. And so here, another very important lesson that I learned while there. So I didn't leave with nothing. I learned some really good lessons in addition to the ones we talked about, the rich client versus the poor client, was asset allocation and portfolio diversity. So these are some very important things that if you want to be a rich client with regards to your investments. And it says, also, you want to know about asset allocation and portfolio diversity, not just for your financial investments, but for the highest return in life, love, and work. So I'll tell you more about that. And so looking at FINRA.org, that's FINRA.org, it says when it comes to investing, asset allocation is the equivalent of deciding how many of your eggs, your financial eggs, you're going to put into how many different baskets or asset classes, such as stocks, bonds, and cash. And the different categories of investments respond to changing economical and political conditions in different ways. Okay, so these different categories, when it comes to politics, when it comes to economics, they may have different responses. So you may not necessarily want to put all of your money into stocks, because when politics change, stocks may change. When bonds change in response to economic conditions, then stocks may not be changing the same exact way. And cash also, believe it or not, cash responds differently in these different environments as well. And so if you're, have some thoughts about should I or should I not, keep cash, or should I put all my money into stocks, bonds, and etc., then you might want to look at the Warren Buffett way, because he is one of those people that believe in holding on to some cash. So check it out. And another one was, again, about this diversification. And that is where you are spreading your investments both among and within different asset classes. For example, to avoid concentration risks, then you would select various types of stock, not just putting it into stocks, put it into bonds, and put it into cash. But when you put it into that particular stock bucket, then in that bucket of stocks, then you want those stocks to be diverse. Some of your money may go into a bucket of bonds. So in that bucket of bonds, you want those bonds to be diverse. So you can spread your risk out over different types of stock, different types of bonds. And then, believe it or not, there are various different types of cash accounts. And so, again, in your cash bucket, you also want that to be diverse. So let's get into it a little bit more. So one of the things that we have all been taught about investing in some cases is that we should invest in what we like. Hmm. I saw a reference to a person who only likes potato chips. Interesting. We know we love potato chips. I do too. But that's not the only thing I like. But I'll tell you about him. Now, his love of potato chips was a good love because it landed him a career involving eating potato chips and recording the glorious sound of the crunch that we treasure with eating our favorite potato chips. You know what I'm talking about because when we eat those potato chips, that crunch is just like heaven. So not only are the potato chips a crunchy thing that we love, it's a whole industry that hires people and pays people to, just get crunch into so many of our foods these days because we just have fallen in love with the crunch. But this particular gentleman, he makes his living, believe it or not, off of crunching potato chips. He sits at the desk, he sits in front of a mic, and he eats potato chips and records the sound. And he makes money from that. Wouldn't that be nice? I wish I could make some from eating this chocolate. But likewise, when it comes to investment decisions for life, love, and work, we have to carefully decide what categories we're going to invest in. We have to decide which of our valuables we're going to put into money, time, and energy. And we have to consider the risk as well as the benefits, just like in portfolio investment. So if we are excessively concentrated, remember that concentration risk we talked about? So if we are excessively concentrated in everything chips or everything bagel or everything's gravy, then we're putting ourselves and our valuables at risk. For simplicity's sake, too many potato chips can lead to health concerns. We know if we just sit there and just eat potato chips all day, no vegetables, no fruit, no protein, and other things, then too many chips can lead to some health concerns. So, also, too many chips can be boring. We just eating chips and nothing else, no chocolate in there, no wine, really, then, that can get kind of boring. So too many chips might also mess up our financial budget. If we burn up our funds buying snacks, making midnight runs to the store, burning gas, and living dangerously, being out late, etc., because we know that some of us will jump out of the bed and off the sofa and make that impromptu run to the gas station when we get hit with one of those snack attacks for some chips. So again, we just know that, it's good to be focused and concentrated on some things, but we don't want to be excessively concentrated in our investments in too many things. And some might say, hey, as long as the chips, like in the previous example, is making money, then it's making sense. If it makes money, it makes sense. I've heard that before, but does it really? Are there other things other than money, that we should value as a return on an investment? So yeah, money is a good return on investment. There are other types of returns on investments. So we want to just kind of look at some of those examples. But first of all, let me just kind of clarify some things. Your job income is not really an asset. Okay, so that's not really an asset, not something that you own. So you can't really walk away with that and just say, okay, well, I have something as a result of my job income. The way that you have an asset from your job income is from the accumulated savings from that job. Those are the assets. Those are the things that you own. Even if you have a business and your business have income, that's not an asset until that income is invested in some kind of physical investment, such as a building, equipment, things like that, or some kind of investment, financial investment, such as we talked about before, the stocks, the bond, the mutual funds, retirement accounts, your IRAs, 401ks, different things like that. Those are your assets. All right. But here's one that we don't think about, is really more of a soft asset. It's a, intangible asset. and that is the earning potential of your children. And sometimes yourself if you don't have children, but particularly if you have children, the earning potential of your children is a big potential asset because your children could become your future caregivers. Um, and you just never know. Just never know what your life is going to be about, even though sometimes, like in the example above, you could be doing all of the things right, but not necessarily getting to the point that you want to get in the end. And so here, because of my mom's investment in her children, we were blessed to have the means to take care of our mom for almost a decade and bless her with a graceful home going. And sometimes that doesn't always work out for people, but if you invest in your children, it's a good chance that that will work out better for you. To have somebody to eventually invest in you. And like in a lot of cultures, they really take care of the elderly. But in America, that is not always the case for us in, some instances. So also the one thing that's really important is, again, to invest in your family, especially your children's education for the highest return on an investment. I'll give you some examples. My mom helped me enroll in an accounting course during summer break from middle school. Yes, middle school. Believe it or not, while all the other kids was out playing and having fun and getting into all kinds of, you know, fun things, I was sitting in class learning about accounting in middle school during my middle school break, summer break. And but these days, children have many options today for all kinds of things. Now that they have STEAM, what they call STEAM, that's an expansion of the STEM topics, and science, technology, engineering, all of those things, and the arts, math, and things like that. And so, I even helped one of my grand nieces to get into computer coding while she's in middle school and high school. And so there's so many opportunities for them to invest in their skill development and not just their sports skills and not just fun things. So, they can really have fun in these things. And I even though I was in an accounting class, I didn't feel like I was really missing out on anything because I was enjoying what I was learning. I was learning about money and different and business. So it was kind of exciting. I guess I was a little nerd back then, but I did enjoy it. And my mom invested in that in me. And so just to remind you that asset allocation and diversification. So this is where you have the opportunity to distribute your mind and your body wisely across various types of things that you could invest your time and energy in. And so also another way that my mom invested in her family, she helped diversify my decision-making skills. For instance, she gave us absolutely no choice regarding attending school and church. Okay, so we had to go to school. There was none of that foolishness about dropping out of school, sitting up, eating, her food in her house and not going to school. That was absolutely, And we didn't even have the option with regards to whether we were going to church. Yes, you are going to church. And matter of fact, even on Christmas Day, regardless if it fell on a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc., Christmas Day, there came a time you had to put your toys down for a sec, and we are going to say thank you, Jesus, and happy birthday. So, and even if we had company over there, came over to see what we got for Christmas, she always gave them the option, hey, you can come along with us or you can leave and come back another time. But she did give us a couple of little choices. We were able to choose some of our foods, some clothes, some continuing education and physical fitness activities. So, yeah, she gave us some options, but, she made sure that, because God gave us parents to bring us into this world. She knew the role that parents played in kids' lives. So she played her role, and she made sure that things that we didn't have any business making bad decisions on, she didn't give us the options. The other ones, she gave us some options to kind of figure out who we were and what we wanted to, put our time and attention into. So I participated in sports. I excelled in a few: volleyball, basketball, tennis, swimming, golf. And also tried to get into a little karate class, but they paired me up with this little child that was like a good bit younger than me, good bit smaller than me. And I didn't want to be a smaller child. And I definitely didn't want to get beat by a smaller child. So I was like, okay, goodbye, not for me. I had to get out of there. So again, mom did help diversify my decision making skills, and I learned about myself, what I like, what I don't like, and what things that I had the support of more wise people to help me in my decision makers, and I didn't have to be alone in those decisions for. So I thank her for that. And also, mom also sacrificed for us. She sacrificed to get books and keep books in the house, and which turned out to be good for me because I found out that I really like to read. I did like getting outside because I was active, athletic, and things like that. But my mom, she sacrificed to get us those encyclopedias. Encyclopedia man would come around like once a week or once a month and have an encyclopedia for us. And my mom would, get one and add to the set. And, you get the A set, you get the one with the B words in it, the C words, the D words, the E words. And it just kept growing and growing. We kept having things to learn from. And unfortunately, they discontinued it in the poor neighborhoods like ours. So we would know we got up to a certain letter, I think it was letter K or something. And next thing you know, they discontinued the encyclopedias. This was sad. But anyway, we had some, and we enjoyed the ones we had. We also enjoyed when the people would come around and give us those little miniature Bibles. I read both of my little miniature Bibles. Every time they gave us one, I made sure I read mine cover to cover. And good thing I had some good eyesight back then, because if I picked up one now today, I definitely couldn't see it. But one of my favorite books was called The Br'er Rabbit Story. And this was about the Br'er Rabbit and the Briar Patch. And I just learned, I'm telling you, I just learned this week that book was made into a movie years ago. And that the movie starred a lot of people that I knew, like Nick Cannon, Wayne Brady, Wanda Sykes, D.L. Hughley, Danny Glover, and more stars. And it was the story of how the rabbit cleverly outwitted its rivals. It let me know, just like the song says, what the devil meant for bad, God meant it for my good. Because every time they tried to get that rabbit, he was able to outsmart them and just figured out how to get out of their traps. So it was so wonderful. That was such a good book that I enjoyed. And even though I had no idea at that time when I was reading it as a child, I recently learned that it traces back to slavery. It has ties to Native Americans. It has ties to cultural appropriation. And it has ties to President Theodore Roosevelt in some ways. So you may want to check it out. And it was just so cool to learn these things. And also found out it was nominated for this award called the Best Home Entertainment Production Annie Award. So I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one who really enjoyed Br'er Rabbits and the Briar Patch books. It was a series of books that they had. And I'm going to check out that movie. And I was fortunate also to see Dr. Lynn Richardson of New Wealth University on Steve Harvey's TV show one day. And as a caregiver at that time for my mom, my head was twirling with overloaded demands and activity. I mean, being a caregiver, Mm, that's one of the hardest things that you can do in life. And I was at this time, I had been a caregiver for her for years, and I was working full time, and I was actually running a shift of workers from like 7 to 6 because I had to leave. Had to have somebody there before I left to go to work. Have to have somebody there with her while I was at work, and then. Somebody there long enough to give me time to make it home from work. And then after that, I was with her in the evenings and or weekends a lot of times. And so this was a very demanding thing for me and my family at that time. So, and by this time, I was taking care of her pretty much kind of full time around the clock. Had to pretty much quit my job and just because she had got to the point where she needed 24/7 care. And so I felt really alone, even though I wasn't alone. The world of caregiving, it just made me feel alone. And, sometimes things that you're going through, you just feel like nobody can ever understand this whole situation. And I needed some special nourishment. And so when I saw Dr. Lynn on TV, I was just so excited. So I decided that what I wanted for Christmas was one of her financial education courses. And so I have been hooked on her wealth phonics ever since. And so I'm excited to say I'm also a wealth ambassador for Dr. Larry Richardson through her Wealth University. And so, for instance, Dr. Lynn, she also has a course for CEOs and home-based business entrepreneurs called Hire Your Kids. And plus, she has a book with over 400 beneficial tax deductions. So she shows how there is no need to wait until your children are 15 or 16 years old for to start putting them to work in your business, helping them to learn about finances, helping them to get ready to start their investing in their own college education financing, their moving out financing, their retirement without living with you finances, their entrepreneurship and more. Because even with me, I became a little entrepreneur around the age 8 when I just happened to receive a Christmas card sales opportunity in the mail. So, there are so many ways that you can start teaching your children early. For instance, you should some examples of people who taught skills to their children as young as possible include Tiger Woods, Venus and Serena Williams, Beyonce, Amanda Gorham. Their parents invested in them very, very, very early in life. And look who they became. So you may be sitting over there nurturing an Amanda, a Tiger, a Venus, Serena, Beyonce, who knows? So, but one of my favorite child prodigies that I just really just learned of recently when I was on an airplane ride and I got a chance to see a free movie. And I was actually fortunate enough to one of my clients flew me first class. And so I got a chance to watch a free movie and in first class, of course. Did I mention that? Anyway, the movie was called, and I'm sorry, I'm probably going to say this wrong with this Southern drawl. And I did look it up, but I think I'm going to try to say it, but forgive me if I say it wrong. But the movie is called Chevalier. Chevalier. And it was described in USA Today in their article as Chevalier was described as a Black French violinist. He was a classical composer and a contemporary of Mozart. Some people even refer to him as the Black Mozart. But he was so wonderful. I'm just going to try to keep his name as is, Chevalier. And it's a French name, so of course I'm not saying it the French way. But his surname, his original name, is Joseph Ballon, and his full French name, Chevalier de Saint Roger, Chevalier de Saint Roger, something like that. And he was the illegitimate son of an African slave and a wealthy French plantation owner. And so we know that has happened many, many, many times, during those times back then with the French plantation owner or the plantation owner bore children with those African slaves. And he was one of those, persons that came out of one of those types of situations. And how he was fortunate though, because he began studying violin at age 5. And then at age 7, his dad, he, even though he didn't really quite have that relationship, I imagine that he wanted to have with his father, but his dad took him to a French school because he didn't want his talent to go to waste, where he was learning about the violin. Because not only was he learning about the violin, but his dad had discovered that he was very, very talented. And instead of just letting his talent go to waste there on the plantation, he pretty much dropped him off and left him at this French school. And he paid for his education, which helped him to develop his natural talent and become spectacular. And so he also became a champion equestrian and marksman. So if you ever get a chance to watch this movie about Chevalier, and it's spelled Chevalier, and that movie was so absolutely wonderful. Let me tell you, I stayed there all the way to the end of the credits, the very end of the credits, just because I wanted to be able to listen to the music all the way until the end. And I recently even found his music on Spotify. Absolutely incredible. So, but here the main point is invest in your kids. When you're talking about being the rich client or the poor client, they're one of the ways that you can be the rich client is invest in your kids, even the ones you don't like, because you never know who might be the ones wiping your butt or spoon feeding you your pureed meals. I'm just saying. So invest in your kids for the highest return on investment. And so back to Chevalier. One reason that I might have resonated so well with him is because of his Guadalupe background. See, when I visited Mexico, they jokingly said that the Virgin of the Feast of Guadalupe was paying them a visit since my birthday falls on its celebration day of December 12th. See, according to USA Today article, the Virgin's image is a symbol of resilience and resistance. Yep, that's me. So I'll take that. Once again, our supernatural fate has connected us. Just next time you see me, if you want to call me the Virgin of Guadalupe, hey, feel free. So again, invest in those kids. You never know who you may be nurturing over there to take care of you one day and to be the pride, your joy and pride. And so to reiterate our point, you want to take care of home first and play to win when it comes to investing in your children, so you can be that rich investor versus the poor investor. And then after you take care of home, then you can expand into your world. You can invest in diverse minority-owned businesses. For instance, God has spread the creativity, the knowledge, and abilities around. So why wouldn't you be interested in investing in diversity as a means of portfolio diversification? You get it? Portfolio diversification, in this case, means investing in diverse businesses, like Be Wealthy with Pamela, for instance. But it's many, many, many more out there. Just like I said, Dr. Lynn at New Wealth University, it's many diverse businesses out there for you to choose from. You can also invest in small and local businesses. You can invest in sustainable businesses. This way, you won't hurt yourself carelessly or hurt yourself out of just not knowing better while trying to get ahead. A lot of times, businesses do wonderful things, but they don't necessarily think about sustainability in the process. They don't think about, well, if I do this, what are some of the side effects of, what my business is doing? And can I do it in a way that doesn't hurt, our Earth's atmosphere, doesn't hurt our community, doesn't hurt other people that could be affected by this, process that I am doing, that I'm investing my time and energy and money in. So again, those are some ways that you could invest in different portfolios, different types of investments, and have diversification. So again, you can be the rich client versus the poor client. So here's your chance to choose. Will you be the rich client or the poor client as a result of your investment decisions? Also in life, love, and work. Remember, it's not all just about money. So thank you for continuing to be a part of the Holistic Wealth Hustle podcast by Be Wealthy with Pamela LLC. In each episode, we are designing it to please you and to help joy to pursue you. Be sure to take swift action on what you have learned today and update your weekly wealth planner on your holistic plan workbook to receive your rewards of joyfulness. Feel free to leave your comments below and by contacting us at bewealthywithpamela.com. That's BE Wealthy with PAMELA.com. Please subscribe, share, stay tuned, and let joy pursue you.